In 1958, rock and roll was an infant god, and the world was its cradle. Elvis Presley was the king, but with the king drafted into the army, the throne was vacant, and every sign pointed to one man, Jerry Lee Lewis.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will, but what a thrill. Goodness and gracious, great balls of fire. I like that look of I thought it was.
Lewis was pure, untamed fire. He sang like a preacher and played the piano like a man possessed, kicking the bench out from under himself, sliding across the stage, and even setting the keys ablaze. He was nicknamed the Killer. His records were massive, untamed hits, whole lot of shaking going on, and great balls of fire. He was on the verge of superstardom, signing a monumental 27-date European tour, the first major rock tour of its kind, starting in London. This tour was meant to crown him. But Jerry Lee Lewis, who insisted that he was born to play music, also insisted on bringing his private life with him. The secret? Lewis, 22, had secretly married his cousin's daughter, Myra Brown, and she was only 13 years old. Lewis was warned. Everyone around him, from his record label owner Sam Phillips to his managers, begged him to leave Myra at home. Phillips's brother Judd famously told Lewis, who insisted the marriage was right. Right and wrong don't have anything to do with it. Those people ain't gonna like it. Lewis, ever the defiant showman, simply replied, "People want me. They're gonna take me no matter what." It was a fatal miscalculation based on the bubble he lived in. To understand the explosion, you have to understand the context. Lewis and Myra lived in the American South, where marrying young was common. Myra herself was far from a typical child. She has reflected extensively on the mindset of her generation and why she went along with the impulsive marriage.
When did it go from being cousins to lovers?
It became romantic when Jerry was at our house, and he would ask me if I wanted to go somewhere, like to the Dairy Queen and get a, ice cream or something like that. And he would just be silly with me, and then he started kissing me.
Lewis and Myra were married in secret in 1957. It was later revealed to be an unlawful marriage, as Lewis had yet to divorce his previous wife, Jane Mitchum. But in his mind, the marriage was settled. Myra has also stated that despite her age, she was the one handling the practical realities of their life.
It was as if they had dropped a bomb and everything was exploding around me. I didn't know how to handle it, I didn't understand it, and I didn't know what to do to stop it. I felt very protective of Jerry. I was very upset that they were attacking him.
He was hounded, blasted out of town. There was no way for him to understand how all of a sudden his whole world is blown up, literally, right before his eyes.
The marriage, while legal in his home state of Mississippi, was a cultural time bomb waiting for the right fuse. That fuse was lit at Heathrow Airport on May 22, 1958. The moment Lewis landed in London, the press swarmed the plane. A reporter for the Daily Mail noticed the slight girl in the entourage and asked who she was. Myra, instructed to keep the secret but not warned on the specifics of the cover-up, replied honestly, "I'm Myra, Jerry's wife." The reporter, astonished, asked Lewis her age. Lewis, panicking, lied, claiming she was 15.
And I tried not to say wife, and he said, "Who are you, please?"
But what good is he going to do to punch anyone at this point? She's got to tell him who she is.
And I said, "I'm Jerry's wife." And he said, "Oh, tell me more."
I come to England, I stepped off that plane, they said, "Who is this little girl?" I said, "This is my wife." They said, and I married her before he even got a divorce from the last one. They said, "What?"
The British press, already suspicious of the wild, new American rock stars, had all the ammunition they needed. The fact that he was already on his third marriage, combined with the fact that 15 was below the UK's age of consent, ignited a firestorm of moral outrage. Headlines screamed, "Cradle Robber" and "Baby Snatcher." Lewis's music was instantly removed from radio playlists. The tour was an instant disaster. His first show was attended by only a handful of people and met with boos. His second was worse. By the third, the tour was completely canceled. Lewis and Myra were asked to leave their Mayfair hotel. They were forced to flee London for the United States less than a week after they arrived. Myra, despite being the one who let the cat out of the bag, insists she was poorly prepared for the deception and ultimately blamed the press for its greed.
And Jerry's records were pulled from the stations. He was blacklisted. He could not do a TV show. He was bad news. No one would touch him.
And the climate and everything was such that, in essence, there was a boycott of Jerry Lee, really.
Jerry Lee was so depressed and so down, it was like his world had fallen.
When Lewis returned to the U.S., the scandal followed. The public learned the full truth. Myra was 13, not 15, and they also discovered his second wife. Divorce had not been finalized, making his current marriage potentially bigamous.
Jerry, what about this reception in London? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, sir. We had a very good reception, sir.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, we had a very nice time, and the people treated us real nice.
Well, the papers reported that you were greeted with silence over there and with catcalls from the audience. Is that right?
Well, I can't agree with them there, sir. Our audience was very nice and very good.
Were you there, Mrs. Lewis?
I was there, but I wasn't at the shows.
Oh, you weren't at the shows? Oh, did you notice anything like that sort of reception?
No, it was a very good reception, I thought.
Well, why did you leave?
Well, I don't answer those questions, sir. My manager might knock my head off or something.
When were you married?
Pardon?
When were you married?
Well, we leave our personal questions out of this, sir.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
His career immediately cratered. Lewis, who had been making $10,000 per night, was now playing small clubs for as little as $250. Lewis, reflecting years later, blamed a hypocritical society that wanted to crush the very rebellion he represented.
I've always been a very strong person, always. Determined strong person. When I was young, I was very strong. And I'm still a very strong man. But it rips something out of you every time you pass that coffin. It has to, and it takes a toll.
Myra has argued that Lewis was simply the easiest target for a society that was fundamentally uncomfortable with rock and roll's wildness and sensuality. The immediate impact was the effective death of the first wave of rock and roll. Where Elvis had been domesticated by the army, Lewis was canceled by a moral panic. His music, his image, and his career were marked for life. Despite the global backlash, the scandal did not destroy their marriage immediately. If anything, the attack forced them together. They were the two survivors on a self-imposed island. They divorced 13 years later in 1970, with Myra later charging that she had been subjected to abuse. However, Myra's retrospective interviews consistently framed the scandal as an act of solidarity against the world.
From 1958 until 1968, Jerry would faithfully go to the studio and record music, and they would release it, and the DJs would throw it straight in the garbage. He'd come home with a little demo record. He'd play it, and he'd stand there and he'd listen to it, and he'd say, "Baby, if that's not a hit, I'm gonna quit." And he did that year after year after year for 10 years.
Though she was the young bride, she was the one who felt the most guilt for the damage done to his legacy.
I didn't make it happen, but I didn't stop it from happening. And I could have, because I was the one that let the cat out of the bag.
Jerry Lee Lewis did eventually rebuild his career in the country music world, but he never regained the international, mainstream rock spotlight he had on that fateful day in 1958.
To be back in London, England, I feel like this is home to me, you know. Oh, this is where I first come over and I brought my little 13-year-old cousin with me. Remember that? Little did I know she was really a cousin. 32nd cousin of mine.
The vintage gossip of the Jerry Lee Lewis scandal is not just the story of a shocking marriage. It is the story of a moral lightning rod, a single moment in time where a simple question by a reporter brought down a king and changed the course of music history forever. Did rock and roll deserve to be punished for Jerry Lee Lewis's actions? Or did the scandal simply speed up the inevitable taming of the music? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this wild ride through rock's darkest scandal, hit that like button and subscribe.
I changed my mind. This love is fine. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.